And we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our virtual presentation of Where the Road Leads Us with author Robin Reul and our moderator, Gae Polisner. This event includes an audience Q&A, so to submit a question, please use the Ask a Question button at the very bottom of the screen. You can also vote for any question you'd like for Robin and Gae to answer, and they will make their way to the very top of the list. Also, please consider supporting Vroman's tonight by purchasing a copy of tonight's featured book. We actually have signed copies available, so if you would like to receive one, just click on the green purchase button directly below the viewer screen, and it will take you to our website where you can complete your purchase. Just make sure to write signed copy in the notes section when you are completing your order online so that our store can send you the signed copy. All right, so with that said, let me briefly introduce our guests and then we can get started. So Robin Reul is the author of My Kind of Crazy and Where the Road Leads Us. She has been writing since she was in early elementary school when she used to make her own book club flyers for her classmates and then pen them original stories. Though she grew up on film sets and worked for many years in the film and television industry, she ultimately decided to focus her attention on writing full-time. And joining her tonight is Gae Polisner, who is the author of the best-selling novel, The Memory of Things, In Sight of Stars, and Jack Kerouac is Dead to Me. And with that said, enjoy the talk, everyone.
Hi, everybody. Oh my gosh. It's like romper room, like I see.
Do you want to
I can't see any of you. I'll be in your pajamas and I really don't know. That's fine. Thank you for coming, everybody. And thank you, Vromans, for hosting me and Gae. And this is so wonderful. And please, please, please support this amazing bookstore by buying a copy of books here. They are so wonderful. And thank you so much. And
thank you to Reul, who's been completely awesome to us as we ask a million technological questions.
Yes, because I don't know how to work a computer at all. So. Hi.
So this is kind of fun for Robin and me because we're very good friends, which is really especially fun for me to host her book launch because the way we kind of met is you asking me something about books, or at least I thought that. You remember better how we met.
We met, I was reading one of your books on a plane ride and loved the writing and wrote you a fan letter and you wrote back and we ended up becoming Facebook friends and talking, and it just naturally progressed into this amazing friendship that has lasted now for 10 years. Crazy.
Which is so funny because I don't remember, this is what writers do. I dismissed the fan letter and the loving my books out of the picture completely and only remember you calling me to ask me a question about writing. So
probably.
Isn't that what writers do? We don't remember any of the really objectively flattering stuff. We only remember that goes out the window. We remember the criticism, but we don't remember the objective.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So speaking of objectively flattering, we're not only really good friends, but I am also a fan. And so I'm going to periodically, like Blake Shelton, go like that, remind you to go down and purchase Where the Road Leads Us throughout the evening if you don't already have a copy. But besides having one of the most beautiful covers I have ever seen, really locked it up. Really good job. Matches my nail polish. See?
Oh, look what you did there. That's so awesome. I have no nail polish. Because I knock all my nails off in nervousness.
Nervousness? Are you nervous?
A little bit.
A little bit. A little bit.
I can't see anybody, so it's it's easier. I'm just talking to you. Just talking to you.
Oh, and also let me, because I see people are putting stuff in the chat. I am going to be no good at seeing your stuff in the chat now, so both of us will go back and look at it all.
Exactly. I'm not wearing my glasses, so if you see me going like this, I'm trying to read the chat, but I'm failing, so yeah.
And then we're gonna talk for a while, and then Reul is gonna come back, and she's gonna actually moderate the questions. So keep putting the questions in. As she said, apparently you can vote for them. So if there's a question somebody else asks and you think, oh, that's a much better question, I want to hear the answer to that, go ahead and click on it to vote for it and move it up the channel. But anyway, I am not only Robin. My dog. I'm not only Robin's friend, but I'm a huge fan of her writing, and I'm a huge fan of her books, both My Kind of Crazy, which I actually blurbed, and Where the Road Leads Us. And one of the things that I really love best about Robin's writing is it doesn't matter how serious an issue or issues the book's stories might be tackling, there's always laugh out loud funny moments where I'm texting Robin and going, how did you think of that? So we'll talk about some of that, but before we start talking book stuff, why don't you tell us maybe your best elevator pitch or a little longer about what the book is about?
Okay. This is a book about two teens who are at a personal crossroads, whose paths intersect, and they end up taking a spontaneous road trip to regain control of their destinies. So it's written in a dual POV. So we have Jack, who is on the verge of leaving for college and following in his father's footsteps to go to Columbia University and study medicine, and is kind of having second thoughts at the last minute, and realizes that before he can make this change and leave and go forward, he wants to reach out and reconnect with his estranged brother, who he feels might be the key to helping him make sense of what it is that he really wants. And Hallie, our other main character, she has just recently received a diagnosis that the cancer that she has is back. And so she's kind of sitting on this secret, and it's empowering her to move forward when she finds out that another friend of hers, who is also sick with cancer and is going to be ending his life that weekend through assisted suicide, is having like a party with the people that he cares about in his life, and wants everybody who can be a part of it to come join him. And she wants to come be a part of that, but her parents would never let her do that. So this is her chance to kind of feel like she's in control of her own life at a time when she's never felt more out of control. And boom, they meet in a ride share, and the rest you have to read.
So it's interesting because Robin and I were talking about what she should read aloud, and she's going to read just a little bit aloud to you. And I'm glad that we made the choice we did, because as you can hear, it sounds like a heavy book. And
it's not.
While you're talking about it, I'm thinking like, wow, how are you even brave enough to tackle a teenager with cancer and addiction and assisted suicide and all of that stuff? And then the listener is going like, I don't know, in the middle of a pandemic whether I want to read it.
Yeah. No.
But the truth is, it is laugh out loud funny, and not just in one or two spots, but the whole voice is laugh out loud funny. So I'm actually glad that we settled on the little bit I asked Robin if she would read aloud. Originally, she was going to read from the very beginning, but you're not going to. So maybe you'll set up a little bit and then do it read aloud.
So you want me to read now?
Yeah.
I have to put on my eyeballs. Hang on.
Maybe just tell them like a little bit about what's going on. Ground them a little bit in the story.
So at this point in the story, Jack and Hallie have just met in the rideshare, and the reason that I've chosen this part is it just gives a little bit idea of like the banter between them and how that relationship sort of gets off on its footing, and the humor. And that is something really, I think, that is important to remember with this, is even though there are really heavy topics, it really actually is a very funny book. Like, I would call it more of a romantic comedy than a drama. It just has what they're dealing with in their lives is dramatic, but the story itself is funny, if that makes sense. So at least that's what I'm told. So okay, so I'm going to read you a little section that is from Jack's point of view, but when they first meet up. So they've just arrived at this bus station now, where she's about to take a bus, and he is just hanging out and waiting for his car, the people who are blocking in his car at a party, to move. He's just kind of killing time. I'd always wondered what happened to her in the same way you wonder about a canceled TV series that abruptly ends without resolution. Eventually, you make peace with the fact that just because you want answers, it doesn't mean you're going to get them. And after a while, you forget about it and move on. Hallie's reappearance is a bit like said series just got re-upped for production 2 years later by Netflix. I run up and catch up to her, keeping stride. So where did you say you're headed again, I ask, even though I remember? She turns to me and her eyebrows shoot up slightly as if she's surprised to find me there. Oregon, Medford specifically. And you're going to San Francisco, right? Yeah, I hold open the glass doors to the bus terminal for her. You should go see the wave organ. The what? It's a real organ made out of PVC pipes and stones salvaged from a demolished cemetery that plays music when it's high tide. You have to catch it at the exact right time or you won't hear anything. Sounds cool. You've heard it in person, I ask as we enter the lobby. She starts walking toward the arrival and departure screens. No, I saw it on YouTube. I've never been to San Francisco. Always wanted to go, though. I've never really been anywhere. My family doesn't travel much. Maybe I'll check it out. You totally should. I like random obscure stuff like that. Me too. I've only been to San Francisco once when I was little, and it wasn't the best experience. She looks at me, waiting for the rest of the story. Well, don't leave me hanging like that. I was super scared of bridges when I was small, and apparently the entire time we drove across the Golden Gate Bridge, I screamed at the top of my lungs, certain it was going to collapse from the weight of all the cars. The Golden Gate Bridge is 1.7 miles long, so you can imagine my family was pretty pissed off by the time we reached the other side. She laughs. That's pretty great. I'm sure my parents would disagree. A little snippet.
So there's lots of fun banter between Jack and Hallie. And I wonder if you might tell us a little bit about how you came to know Jack and Hallie and what sort of the inspiration behind the story is.
So this whole book was actually originally written just from Jack's point of view. And my editor had actually been the one that suggested in revisions that we make this a dual POV so that Hallie's story really could come to life. And that made a huge difference in really making the heart of this story come forward. At the time when I was starting to write this, I had a 2-book deal with Sourcebooks, and we just had kind of like a rough outline of what this was going to be about. And then I had a personal tragedy in my life. My father passed away, and it created a lot of different emotions of things that I was dealing with. And I actually didn't write for a full year. I couldn't even go there. And when I did, it became this way of sort of sorting and sifting through a lot of the different emotions that I was feeling, that my family was feeling, different things that we were going through. And at the time, my son was graduating college. My daughter was gearing up to start applying to college. And a lot of it, the feelings of things we were dealing with were feelings of being out of control, like figuring out what we wanted to do, what our path was, and all of that. And it just all sort of played in together as the perfect storm for this story of like this boy who is grieving and on the verge of making these huge life decisions that definitely are influenced by the person who has passed. And where does he want to go from here? And Hallie's character sort of came to life more at the time when I started writing this. My dishwasher died, and I had to go to an appliance store to get it fixed. And I was telling the person who was helping me, like, oh my God, you know, I'm dealing with my father has cancer right now, and here I am looking for a dishwasher. And she told me, well, you know, I can empathize. I have cancer too. And she had Carney's triad, which is the kind of cancer that Hallie has in the book. And she started telling me about her cancer and what this was. And it just fit as like, this is what this girl is dealing with. It's not something where it's like tomorrow something's going to happen to her, but it's something that's sort of like running in the background of her life all the time, but it's stopping her from living. And she feels out of control, like it's controlling her. And how perfect to kind of marry their storylines together in ways that they can each help each other learn to live and to be in the world. So that was sort of where that was born. I mean, I'm not a person who plots and outlines at all. So
one day it's going to be.
yeah. And so this was sort of kind of evolved as I wrote it. It's not like I knew that this was exactly what this story was going to be at all. It just sort of evolved as I wrote it. And
I have never asked you this question before, but I, of course, know many of these stories behind it. But does the girl in the appliance store know? And did you bring her a copy of the book?
I have not seen her since the day I bought the dishwasher, but she gave me a lot of extensive information, and we talked a few times so that I would learn more about what her condition was and her history and all of that. And so I honestly don't even know if she, is okay. I don't know. But I hope she is.
My sister is always asking me if the real people who find their way into my story, if go bring them a copy of your book. And I'm always not sure, will they like it or will they not like it? Will, what perspective are they coming from? Will it feel like a violation of their privacy, even though by the time we write these characters, they become so fictionalized. They're no longer at all really the person they started out as.
Right.
But I wonder if she'd love a copy of the book. It's such a hopeful.
Well, remember, I started writing this 4 years ago. So I don't know if she's still there, but
that would be really depressing.
Universal Appliance, if you're still there. You were a huge inspiration. So
we hope you're still there.
Yeah.
I also remember that very distinctly because you and I were lucky enough to spend, this sounds romantic, you and I were lucky enough to spend a weekend together in a hotel in New York.
Yes. And that's not how it sounds, but it was very fun.
It was very fun and very platonic.
Yes.
But it was while one of the, all too common wildfires were going on. And I remember that was kind of the turning point of also deciding to set this story against the backdrop of.
Yeah, I mean, that's just been such a huge backdrop for so many people that live here in Southern California that it's just sort of become the way we live. I mean, it always was sort of there, even when I was growing up. I've grown up in LA, but never like it's been the last few years. And in fact, a couple of years ago, when the Woolsey fire came through, we were evacuated, as was my mom. And it affected all of us deeply. And so, it just seemed like if you're living here, that's as much a part of a story potentially as having an earthquake or something else. It's just part of what we live with in the environment here. So it had a place.
Yeah, it had a place, but it felt really right for the story that this sort of impetus of all this stuff going on for Jack in this moment in time. He's basically got his birthday, his 18th birthday.
Yes, his 18th birthday and graduation are on the exact same day.
Starting when the story starts, against his mother being out of town, his father having just passed, all things they're not spoilers, you know them from the outset. His mother is a little busy for high school graduation and his 18th birthday, so she's out of town. But the wildfires just kind of are that, that very, for all the teachers who are here and want to pretend that there's some, very deep metaphor behind it, that the combustion of events that lead him to Hallie. And it was a nice addition, but very much stemming from you going through some serious trauma.
Yeah.
Yourself.
That was a scary time.
So I saw Rachel commenting that the book really reads like a movie. And
she is my hype woman. Rachel, you're so funny.
It's always good to have a hype woman. So if you're out there, Scouts know that there is actually somebody who's on that. So hopefully it will not only read like a movie, but who knows? We won't jinx anything.
That's right. We're hoping.
Let's talk about a few of my favorite little things in the book, which are, of course, well, actually, let me just ask you about something big, and then we'll talk about a few of my little things in the book. So one of the now I feel drunk with power, which is something you said at the outset. to Vera. I can ask her anything.
I can make Vera appear. I'm drunk with power. Yeah.
But I am the mom of 2 grown sons. You are the mom of a boy and a girl, sister and a brother. So for me, reading the brother relationship that you portray in here is really impressive, because you don't have brothers as your kid. You didn't raise brothers. I have, and you're a sister, but not a brother, right?
No, I have a brother and a sister.
You have a brother, but you're not
both here. Hi, Ben. Hi, Bonnie.
But you're not a brother to a brother.
No, not that I'm aware of.
So what I'm trying to say here is that brothers are a very particular relationship. I think it's very different than sisters, and very different than brother and sister relationships. And, I have some, my mom has a brother too. So you pay attention to those things when you suddenly have 2 boys who don't get along the way sisters might. And of course, there are exceptions to every rule, but it's not that they don't love each other. It's not that they don't have a deep connection, but there's always this sort of competitiveness and a little bit of resentfulness that I think maybe doesn't take place as much in other relationships. And you did that really well. So I'm just kind of curious about writing that brother relationship for you. And it's an intense one here.
Gosh, I wish I had an intelligent answer. It just sort of came out. I don't know. It just sort of felt like just the natural sibling that he had. I don't know. It's just what came out. I tend to write boys. Like, for some reason, I'm more comfortable with boys. So
you and I have that in
common. More appropriate. He had a brother, and in my first book, he had a brother as well. So I don't know. That's probably a really deep psychological answer for that I'm unaware of. But
so I was wondering, was there a moment when you were writing Alex's response to, and I don't want to spoil things, so I won't kind of get into what's taking place, but there's a scene toward the end of the book where Alex's response to Jack is not what you would hope it might be in that moment, and yet it's utterly authentic. When you were writing that relationship, were there moments where you started to write something else and you thought, wait, I'm not sure that's right for these?
Absolutely, brothers? Because I feel like the danger in a story like this is to just tie everything up with a bow. So it's very neat and satisfying. And that's not realistic. Life isn't really like that, especially when you're dealing with issues like addiction or estrangement or things like that. Life isn't neat. And so somebody that is in that situation, it takes a lot to rebuild that trust. There's a lot of triggers. There's a lot of things that can happen. And so without taking anything away from what that is, it definitely is one of the, sorry, there's an ice cream truck outside and I'm very distracted. Like,
ice cream.
Thank you, ice cream truck, for real. Yum. Now I'm thinking about ice cream sandwiches.
All right. So,
what was I even saying? Now I've lost my train.
Okay, I'll move on to some of the lighter things. But somebody wrote agreed. So I think that, I think that's one of the things that you just did so well in this story, in a rather nuanced. It's very nuanced, and it's
Thank you. I did a lot of research in terms of like people that are going through 12-step programs, but particularly relatives of people who are involved with that. And just from reading a lot of their personal experiences and stories, that to me felt like the most authentic way to handle what that is. I think anything less would have been, it would have felt very forced. So I don't know. That's
so. Signed copies are available of Where It Leads Us, and there's a little purchase books button on your screen. And if you have already purchased it, you should probably just purchase another one for the favorite teen in your life, or put it away for a holiday gift, because it is
donate it to a library or something.
To a library. Cool. Yeah, support Vromans for hosting these awesome events, and support Robin. so that she can fly to New York and spend another weekend
That's
in
right.
a hotel with me.
Really, that's what it's for. It's the Gae and Robin in New York Part 2 fund.
All right, so I'm going to talk about let's talk about some quick things that I love. We'll do a couple of little like boom, 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 quick things.
All right.
Tell me about Princess.
Princess. Princess is based on a real dog. This is my friend Allison's little Chihuahua, and she is just absolutely adorable, and I love playing with her. And when the dog just sort of appeared in the book, it was like, well, duh, it's going to be named Princess, and it totally is her, except I don't know if she's flatulent. Like the dog in the book. I mean, I'm sure she is at times, but maybe not like perpetually.
Yeah,
So.
the dog has a little flatulence problem, and quite an enjoyable character, as is Oscar.
Yes.
Who is the driver for the rideshare car, which happens to have a large Buddha on the outside.
Good Karma is the car company. Yep.
Say it again.
Good Karma.
Good Karma is the name of the rideshare company. I thought that was so much fun and so clever. And every time I turned a page and it was a Good Karma car, just cracked me up. I think somebody might steal that.
Well, I hope not. I need a piece of that if that happens. That would probably fund the trip to New York.
Hey, maybe those are the t-shirts we should make, the little car with the Good Karma thing. We'll work on that.
All right.
Merch. We need to work on some merch.
Absolutely.
Oh, we were talking about writing the story with Google Maps.
Yes.
And the places that you've been and the pinball machine.
Yeah.
And, you know, I happen to have my childhood pinball machine in my basement.
This is what you told me. And yet when I stayed in a guest room in your basement, how on earth did I miss it is the question, really, because I would have been playing that in the middle of the night.
Maybe it wasn't there yet. I can't remember when we got it. The basement was redone.
It was.
So it was there, you know, it was a whirlwind. You were only in the house for a very short time. And a lot of it involved what clothing we were going to wear because.
Totally. Because that was really the priority.
Not because we're prima donnas, but because it was in between seasons. And so we didn't want to be cold and we didn't want to be hot and we didn't want to travel with a lot of baggage. So, but anyway, tell us about Google Maps and pinball.
All right. So I did write this book extensively using Google Maps, which was pretty amazing because here I am in Southern California and they need to take this road trip. And, you know, I couldn't obviously go stop every stop of the way and then write a chapter. So what I did is I basically figured out, here's the trip that I want them to make from A to B. And so I would break it up into segments. And so I could then go on Google Maps and say, okay, if they're leaving, you know, Santa Barbara at this time, at what point would they reach San Luis Obispo? And then it'll tell me exactly how much time that was to drive. Then I could go into like the street version and I could literally see if they're getting off at this exit for gas. This is the gas station that's there. This is what's across from them. This is what the view is. And then even more so as I got into the parts where we're in San Francisco and I can see the streets, I can see the signs. And Google Maps is amazing because in some cases, they'll let you actually walk inside buildings and stores. So the Pacific Pinball Museum is one of those places where I never got to see it before I wrote it, but I was able to explore it in extensive detail online through there. I walked through every single room. I looked at the machines. I could see the pictures hanging above them and read the descriptions of what they were. And then ultimately, before I went into revisions, I went and I took the actual trip so that I was able to walk through these places and get all the sensory details. Like, you know, here's the sound that the stairs make when you step on them at City Light Books. They make a certain creaking noise, or, you know, this is what the floor looks like. It's black and white checkered. It's, you know, there's different things that you just can't possibly experience when you're looking at a photograph and you need that full sensory picture. So that was super fun to be able to walk that path. that I had literally mapped out to the minute through this, because you can, do it driving or walking or whatever. So props to Google Maps, because that is the best way to write a road trip.
It is really amazing. And I often find myself thinking about how writers wrote before they could do all of these things.
Yeah. You'd have to physically do it. And I could literally, every chapter starts with a timestamp, and that timestamp is legit from having mapped it out, like this is when this would happen. So it just ups that, the stakes of that more. What's at stake when it's got that ticking clock, and they made that absolutely possible to do. Technology is amazing. If only I knew how to use it. So
it also changes so rapidly that it makes it so hard. I remember when I wrote The Pull of Gravity, and I did a similar thing where I had to map out on Google Maps and all of that. And that's my first book 10 years ago. But in The Pull of Gravity, there's a scene where the kids pull out a GPS. And within 2 years of the book coming out, if not less, people were no longer using GPSs like that. Certainly you still have
Vroman, right?
But you didn't have them. You didn't have Google Maps on your phone, so you couldn't. Right. But so technology.
How did we live before?
Right. Great.
No car seats, no seat belts. Didn't know where everybody was every second of the day. We all survived.
We all survived. So, do you want to play a little game?
I'll play a little game. Sure.
You want to see how well we know know your characters?
Huh?
Let's see how well you know your characters, Jack and Hallie.
I might embarrass myself, but okay.
So
the first time.
So I teach writing workshops, and one of my favorite things to pull out when my students are first writing their books and getting into their characters is I pull out a Proust Questionnaire. And I ask them to answer the questionnaire, and it's many, many questions. We're not going to do all of the questions, but I ask them to try to go through and answer the questions as their characters. And they always find it a really useful exercise, but of course I'm not putting them on the spot. But I thought, because you wrote a book dual POV, and I think it's really, like, you can ask someone, how do you separate the voices between Jack and Hallie, but it's hard to answer that. It's like something innate that you do. So maybe each has a buzzword or something that you like, latch onto as their tick or their thing, and then you maybe overdo it initially and then pull it back. But I thought, let's really see how well you know your characters, or see how different they are. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions from the Proust Questionnaire.
Okay.
Marcel Proust, it's a famous questionnaire. And I'm going to have you answer first as Jack.
Okay.
I'll cue you, and then as Hallie.
Okay.
Okay. Jack, what is your greatest fear?
Oh, his greatest fear, I would say, just being alone, just feeling like he's alone in the world.
And this one might be a little more obvious. Hallie, what's your greatest fear?
Her greatest fear, I think, is actually living, not even dying.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. That's such a...
Scared of hoping, really. So I think just, believing and hoping, and then it just falls apart. She's scared.
I think that's really astute, Robin. And I think if there's any aspiring writers, or even not, even those of us who are not, we're always aspiring, even when we've published, right? That's such an interesting nuance between those two answers, because I thought you would have said she's afraid of dying, but she's afraid of not fully living. And those two answers are so different.
Hoping. I think hoping even more than living. She's afraid of hoping.
Yeah. And that, so like the minute you said that, I can see how you wrote Hallie the way you did by that answer, because it's definitely informative of who she is. Very cool. All right, let's see. If they're too hard, just say pass. You're allowed to say pass.
Okay.
Jack, on what occasion do you lie?
On what occasion would he lie? To avoid hurting someone's feelings, probably.
And Hallie?
Same.
Same.
I think they're both very conscious of other people and trying to please other people rather than themselves. And so they wouldn't want to hurt someone's feelings.
This might have been easier to answer when you were super close to writing the book, but we'll see. Jack, which word or phrases do you most overuse?
Oh, gosh. You know, I would have to be closer to writing. I don't remember.
I should be able to answer it better because I just reread it. But
I can tell you Hallie's was holy shiitake. I mean, that's definitely like how she would talk. He says seriously quite a bit. Like when he starts things like, seriously, you know, that's sort of his thing. I think it's sort of my thing too.
I love that. Isn't that characters definitely adopt whatever our thing is?
Absolutely.
And then there's that moment, right? Then there's that moment where you decide, I'm aware of it. I'm aware that my character has adopted one of my mannerisms or sayings. And then there's the decision, does it work for that character or do I have to take it away, right?
Right. I mean, I think all our characters are us in parts of us, you know, and this is definitely true for this book. I was, you know, I think there's a little bit of me in every single one of those characters as I was just working out all those different parts of me, you know? And so I'm not sure actually of the two main characters, which one I am more like. Probably a 50-50 split, really. Just there's aspects, I think.
I was going to ask you that. Just so you know, we have about 5 more minutes before Rira is going to come back, and then we're going to do Q&A. That show comes out. It goes fast, doesn't it?
It does.
Hope everybody's enjoying yourselves. We do wish we could actually be directly interacting with you. So
I know.
we're looking forward to the Q&A part. I'm going to remind you one more time to press the green purchase books button. If you don't want to do it right this second while we're talking, then do it as it's ending so you don't miss anything. Let's see if this is an obvious answer or not, Robin.
Okay.
Hallie. Because I'm not sure it is an obvious answer. Or, what or who is the greatest love of your life, Jack?
Oh, gosh. The greatest love of his life. Probably Douglas Adams writing The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because he represents absolutely the dream for Jack of being able to be a writer and just be himself. So I don't know that there's a person that's in his life that is that person for him.
Yes, he's quite enamored with those, as was I. I read them all in law school. I don't remember them at all. Your book made me want to go and reread them, which is always a problem when I want to reread something because there's so much I haven't read ever that I'm like, you can't read things, read forward, read things that you haven't read. Right. It did make me want to reread them. And how would Hallie answer that question?
Oh, her favorite person? I don't know. Off the top of my head, I don't know. I can't even think.
That's a fun little game to play. But before we get to the Q&A, I just want to ask you if there is a favorite part of the book for you. Do you have a favorite part of the book?
Yes. Oh, yes. I love, love, love the part writing it anyway, the with the mannequins.
The mannequin scene.
We're not going to get too deep into that because if you haven't read it, you have to read that scene and enjoy it with no spoilers. But that part was so much fun to write. I was laughing myself while I wrote it. So it's just fun.
Yeah, that was a totally fun scene. It's funny because in Jack Kerouac is Dead to Me. And by the way, you can always, it's fascinating. You can date how old or young someone is because it was clear that Rira has not read Kerouac and doesn't know his name, which is just a function of many of my readers of the book have no idea who Kerouac is. amazing, right? But there's a scene in Kerouac, very different than the mannequin scene for different reasons, but that we've always referred to as the thumb scene. And when I sold it to my editor, like she literally said to me, "Oh my God, the thumb scene. It's a little sexy." But I thought that about the mannequin scene, that it is very much, I think people
that's the scene people will remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Mannequin scene. Are you getting feedback on that particular scene? What are you getting from readers?
I've been very, very lucky that I've had some really wonderful letters that have come already from readers that it's just really resonated with them, this story. And I feel very fortunate that it seems to be hitting people in all the right ways and all the ways that I hoped and intended. And I hope it continues. So I feel very lucky.
If we really got to tell readers what we hope to take, they hope. Let me try that again. We don't get to tell readers what we hope they take from our books, but
yeah,
if you were able to ensure that a reader took something from your book, what might that be?
Oh, yes. I would like readers to really take from this that tomorrow is another day, and that just because something is one way today, it doesn't have to be that way tomorrow. Everything can change, and you just have to prioritize, your own peace and being in search of your own peace so much that you're willing to do what you need to do to get that you owe yourself that more than you owe anybody else, anything else.
Are you ever freaking out in your own life about something and somebody said to you, "Robin, go read your own book"?
Not yet, but it's only been out for a week. But
that literally happened to me in the beginning of the pandemic when I was like, I don't know how I'm going to cope. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And my mom.
Read page 36.
What?
I said, read page 36.
Oh, no, my mom said to me, like, Gae, go read your own book. And then I wanted to yell. I was like, I wrote it. That doesn't mean it will help me.
That's right. No, I mean, I feel like the things that are in there are things that I just sort of learned through my own journey through grief and life. And I mean, there was lots of different kinds of grief that were going on in my life at that time, transitioning from being a parent of kids that are living at home to, a different chapter of my life in that way, and letting go with my father, letting go, with lots of things. It really is a book about letting go, learning to let go. And it was that journey for me. It really helped. So
I'm sorry because I never met him, but I feel like I knew your dad. I feel like I know your beautiful mom, Sunny. Hi, Sunny.
He's here.
Hi,
Not
Sunny.
here, but she's here somewhere. Hi, Mom.
And I love that you worked your dad's name.
Yeah.
The story.
Well, he always wanted a kid named Jack, and I didn't have a kid named Jack, so now he got one. So this book is for him. It's dedicated to him.
Yeah. That made me cry a little. Sorry, I didn't mean to make us cry. That made me cry.
A little verklempt. It happens.
Well, I see them saying that we're moving to the Q&A. We're ready. I don't know are we supposed to tell them that we're ready? Because I don't want to cut off from people.
We can start the Q&A. For those of you who would like to ask your last minute questions, now is the time. Just use the ask a question button at the very bottom of the screen. So I'm going to go look through the questions and see which are the most popular. So this is at the top of the list. Which song from the playlist captures the heart of the story the most?
See, Robin, I didn't ask you hard questions like that.
That is a hard one. The one that captures it the most. Oh, gosh. Probably the song Brighter Than Sunshine by Aqualung, which is the last track on the playlist. And that one just is sort of the energy of it all coming together at the end, sort of taking them from where they've been to who they've become. That one to me is the most poignant.
Rachel says that song is so beautiful.
Oh, yeah. She liked that one.
And by the way, somewhere in the chat, there is a link, I think, to the Spotify playlist, but also you can always reach out to Robin to get that if you would like to enhance your reading experience by listening to that playlist.
Yeah. Each song is like, kind of focuses on the energy of each character and different events that have happened in the story. And it was music that I was listening to while I was writing it. And then there's a few tracks that are more just inspired by it after the fact, but it captures musically the journey for me of.
Do you listen to music literally while you're writing, or do you mean around around the time when I'm writing it? I actually prefer to write in like absolute silence. Me too. And I
cannot write with anything on, If I've ever, met any of my writer friends for a writing date, chances are I was really distracted by bright and shiny things and got almost nothing done. Yeah. But I enjoyed being with you anyway, and would do it again in a heartbeat. But I need to write in complete silence. But when I go in my car and I'm driving, I need to be hearing the music that reminds me of this story. Because when I'm driving, I'm writing in my head. So that's kind of my time.
Very cool.
All right. You actually answered the follow-up question to that. It's like, do you listen to music while you write? So let's move on to the next question.
I'm an excellent interviewer.
You are. You're on it.
Who would you cast as Jack and Hallie in the movie?
I didn't ask it, Robin.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Tough one.
So,
Robin and I have a running joke about not being asked this because we can't get our brains to think of any of the young actors that we should. Right? But go take
I have an image in my head. I mean, for Hallie, to me, she is Joey King. She just looks the part, acts the part. She's a wonderful actress. And I just
What's she from? What is she from?
The Kissing Booth. Yeah.
I know neither the actress or the movie, so I'm out.
And then Miles Heiser probably as Jack, who is in Parenthood, and he's in 13 Reasons Why, and he looks the part. They're probably my ideal casting.
I want to cast Oscar. He's fun.
Yeah.
I love Oscar.
I just picture like Dan Levy. I don't know.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so next question. What books did you love as a teen?
What books did I love as a teen? This is really terrible to say, but when I was a teenager, I actually didn't read that much. I sort of went from being like this really avid reader growing up, and then had this big pause. And then when I got to college at Boston University, where coincidentally Gae went too, but we didn't know each other then.
A couple years apart.
Yeah.
No B.C. Andrews, No Flowers in the Attic for you?
Yeah, I read those, but like when I was younger. Like I read those maybe when I was like 12.
You read Flowers in the Attic when you were 12?
Oh, yeah.
I forgot you were a little ahead of me.
I was a little ahead of things. But yeah, I took a contemporary fiction class at BU, and that kind of introduced me to adult fiction writers. And from that point in, it was like just, diving in, and I loved all different kinds of writers. I discovered, Anne Rice and Kurt Vonnegut, and my favorite author is Jonathan Tropper. I just absolutely love him. I love that kind of snarky humor and all of that. John Irving, and the list is long. But yeah,
I was definitely reading V.C. Andrews like at 16, but also distinctly remember I read The Princess Bride before it was ever a movie at 16. Did you not read The Princess Bride when you were a teen?
No.
Yeah, I was in on it. Ground floor, Princess Bride. I take a lot of pride in that. Judy Blume? Any Judy Blume?
Oh, God, yeah.
So you were.
I loved Judy Blume when I was growing up. Judy Blume, and even more than Judy Blume, Norma Klein, who was like the edgy Judy Blume.
Mm-hmm. Well, Forever was kind of edgy, right?
It was. I still actually have my original copy of Forever with all the highlighted dirty parts. True story.
Yeah. We should go through that someday.
Okay.
Just for fun.
Just for fun.
All right. So we have time for 2 more questions. And the next question is from Jeff. Hi, Robin. You know your dad means so much to me. I wonder what in the book is inspired by your dad. One of his many jokes or stories or other things related to him you secretly included.
You know, the dad really isn't my dad at all. My dad was very warm and wonderful and engaged in my life and absolutely hilarious. And so the dad in this story is nothing like him, but the part that is like him is how much this boy is so connected to his father, and how much even in his absence, he just really wants to feel connected to him and feel his approval. And just the thought process of realizing, as I did, and it's a line that's actually in the book, that he and his brother, you know, are the last atoms and molecules left of his father left on Earth. And I feel that too, like myself and my kids and all that. It's just, that's the part that I still feel that connection, and I want to honor and just hopefully bring forth that love and that connection. So that's the part of my dad that's very much in there, and feeling that sense that he would have been very, very proud of this and very excited that I had somehow pulled this off with all the chaos that was going on in our lives at that time. It was like one thing after another, like what's happening today? So yeah. But hi, Jeff, it's so good to see you, even though I can't see you, and I'm so grateful you came. Jeff actually was my father's assistant for years, the person asking this question. So I am so happy that you're here. Thank you.
Okay, so this question is for both of you. Can you describe what a writing session looks like? Location, length of time, included baked goods?
Somebody knows me. Somebody's got my number. A writing session for me, gosh, I would start writing usually about, maybe between 8 and 9 in the morning, and would go all the way sometimes till 5 or 6 o'clock at night, taking breaks for baked goods and iced coffee. Just kind of sitting there and writing what comes to me. There's no real organization to it. It's just when I'm in the zone, I'm in the zone, and I'm just doing it. And then I just stop when it's quitting time. That's it. Or when I get hungry.
Yeah, it kind of changes whatever phase of life you're in too. For me, it changes a lot whether I'm struggling to get into the piece or whether I'm engrossed in the piece. And if I'm engrossed in the piece, it can be hours that feel like minutes, where time disappears and suddenly it's 5 o'clock and you should make dinner and you don't know where the day went. And if I'm struggling to get into the piece, then it's like, how am I on Facebook again? How am I on Twitter again? Wait, I was just writing and I went to research one little thing and I've completely forgotten, and I've now gone on a spiral of distraction and doing anything but. So it really...
Yeah. And I mean, with research too, especially if that becomes part of what you're writing that day, you can go down a research rabbit hole all by itself for 3 hours. And I know I did, certainly, where, you just find something and it builds and it builds and it builds. And so maybe you've only actually reworked one paragraph that day to a place where you want it before you delete it the following morning, more likely. But you might have amassed just enough new information that it makes one sentence just pop. And so some days are like that. Some days are pages and some days are paragraphs.
Yeah. And I think that, all the different versions of writing are real writing. And I'm not a fan of the people who tell you that, if you're a real writer, you write every day. BS. Some days you don't write, some weeks you don't write, some months you don't write. And I think we're on the same, we also live a life, and there are storms and COVID and people dying and dogs that need to get played with and bunnies in the backyard that are adorable. And And some days you have a great writing day, and some days you intend to get there and you never do. And you're a real writer both ways, in my humble opinion.
Indeed.
Right. Actually, this is a very short question, and it's from Susan. What are you doing for your birthday tomorrow, Robin? Happy early birthday.
Of course, you're the one that brings that up. What am I doing for my birthday tomorrow? My son is actually coming out and making me dinner. I'm very excited about that. And other than that, just chilling, open to plans. I don't know. I have nothing special going on except aging gracefully.
You are aging beautifully.
You are aging gracefully.
And since it's Robin's birthday, please purchase books by pushing that little green button.
That's right.
Yes.
If you want to support me for my birthday,
yes, we do have signed copies available of Where the Road Leads Us. Just click on the green purchase button. It'll take you to our website. If you can, please write signed copy in the comment section when you're completing the order on our website. That way our staff has like an extra reminder to send you a signed copy instead of an unsigned copy. And for those of you who tuned in late, don't worry, a replay will be available. You'll be able to catch the beginning of this stream. I think it'll be up within the next 15 minutes, so no worries there. And I think that's about it. Thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight and for your thoughtful questions and for the lively chat. Thank you, Robin and Gae, for the wonderful discussion. And congratulations again, Robin, on your new book.
Thank you to Vroman's and to you, Rira, and especially to you, Gae. You're amazing, and thank you. This was the best part about this, the fact that it wasn't in person, is that I actually can do an event with Gae, who lives in New York. So we're on opposite coasts, and yet we're able to do something we never imagined we'd be able to do together. So that's really cool. And check out Gae's books too, because honestly, I am such a fangirl. And like I said in the beginning, that is how we met, because she is an absolutely amazing, beautiful writer. And if you have not yet discovered her books, I would encourage you to check those out too.
Yes, and we have those available on our website too.
Thank you.
All right, well, stay safe, everyone. Have a good night, and like read books.
Read lots of books.
Read lots of books.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Robin, the next one in person.
Yes,
we do together in person.
In person. That's a deal.
All right, bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.